Creating effective paragraphing means having clear topic sentences, adequate, which means enough, and relevant, which means on topic, supporting details, and also a closing or transition sentence that comes at the end that helps to move the reader forward. So we're going to take a look at an example of a narrative paragraph that uses this structure. When I sat for the graduate record exam, or the GRE, I was nervous. My hand shook as I entered the testing center. My stomach rumbled with anxiety. I took my seat near the sign-in desk and waited for my name to be called. A few moments later, a woman appeared from behind a heavy glass door. She examined my ID and asked me to empty my pockets. I could hardly follow her directions because my mind was on the test. Finally, she allowed me into the testing room. I settled into my cubicle, logged onto the computer, and took a breath. I was ready to begin. So here we have an example of a narrative paragraph that is fairly well developed and fairly well organized. I want to start by just looking at an outline of this paragraph. We have first our controlling idea at the top, or our topic sentence. Taking the graduate record exam made me nervous. And then we have a series of supporting details that help to develop or illustrate that idea. Some of the supporting details are things like a sweating hands or a rumbling stomach. Also, the narrative of waiting to be allowed into the testing room. Sometimes when you're waiting for something and it's not happening, it kind of builds a little bit more tension or a little bit more anxiety. The example that it was difficult to follow directions. Take in a deep breath, and then finally this last piece sort of gets into the closing sentence where we start to transition forward. So we notice that each of these supporting ideas is in some way connected to the idea of nervousness, right? Sweating hands shows nervousness, rumbling stomach shows nervousness, etc. So each of the topics are relevant or on topic. Each of the supporting details are relevant or on topic, and there's enough of them. So there's an adequate amount of details to help tell the story. Again, when we'll read it one more time in closing, we have that clear topic sentence, and then we have at the end a closing sentence that sort of connects back to the topic sentence, but also points to the reader a way forward. We know that in the next paragraph, we're likely going to read about what happens as the test begins. So one more time, we'll just look through it together. And as I'm reading it, I want you to just note the topic sentence, the supporting details, and then finally the closing sentence and the way it points the reader forward. When I sat for the graduate record exam, I was nervous. My hand shook as I entered the testing center, and my stomach rumbled with anxiety. I took my seat near the sign-in desk and waited for my name to be called. A few moments later, a woman appeared from behind a heavy glass door. She examined my ID and asked me to empty my pockets. I could hardly follow her directions because my mind was on the test. Finally, she allowed me into the testing room. I settled into my assigned cubicle, logged onto the computer, and took a deep breath. I was ready to begin.